What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and training camp continues. Justin Fields is back at practice, so we are doing okay. We've avoided that horrible scare, and now we can kind of move on. And today, what I want to talk about is a few areas where I truly do expect improvement for the 2025 Jets, and we've been talking about them on Jets Latest. First of them is the offensive line, right? We've talked about how they are young, how we have maybe Fashanu coming on in his second year, drafted Membu, how we're strong on the interior and really young and developing together. Want to talk about that. Also want to talk about kind of the archetype of cornerback that we are seeing in the secondary, right? Matching the kind of scheme that we believe Wilkes and Glenn are going to play. You hear me talk about all the time this idea that we play this press man coverage, or at least Aaron Glenn did, to the league's highest level in Detroit last year. And then I also want to talk about that attention to detail a little bit more, right? The penalties, the kind of focus areas in the kind of culture that Aaron Glenn is really trying to install here with the Jets, and how that is showing up in camp, not only with what we're seeing in the practice field. We talked about like refs being at practice on yesterday's show, right? And kind of the benefit of that, and how some of these Jets are even really talking about it explicitly on how it looks and feels different than the previous regime. And another person who is talking is Elijah Vera Tucker, another one of the young studs on this Jets roster here. Check out what AVT had to say about the potential of this offensive line. He goes, "To have a solid O-line like this and the type of guys we have in this room, it's a great feeling. I think we all come in with the right mindset. Guys like Membu on the right side, Olu too, both first-round tackles, Tip in the middle, John on the other side. When you add all those guys together, it can really be something special." And remember, I talked to you guys about this. PFF rated the Jets offensive line the top 10 in the NFL at number 9, but said there is a chance to end up much higher if their pair of young offensive tackles live up to their potential. And AVT, like I said, a true stud, allowed a pressure rate of only 4.3%. That was third best in the NFL last year. And remember, AVT is also a leader. He has been talking about there's accountability now, where there maybe wasn't his first few years. You know, there are some veiled shots being taken at the previous regime, talking about it's no surprise that we had the most penalties. You've heard AVT and others talk about kind of expectation, accountability. Guys like Garrett Wilson saying they weren't expected to do certain things that they are now expected to do with the like no block, no rock piece, right? So it continues to build here at training camp. Another area we have talked a lot about, and listen, Sauce Gardner gets all the hype, and he should, right? The highest paid defensive back in all of football, the number 1 PFF rated cornerback, but I really believe this pass defense as a whole is going to be different. I talk about the press man coverage, and a key to that is going to be a free agent we brought in from Baltimore, Brandon Stephens. And Brandon Stephens was at the mic also talking about why he wanted to come here specifically to pair with Sauce, but also to learn from Aaron Glenn. Remember, Aaron Glenn was a Pro Bowl corner in his own right in his NFL playing days. Listen to what he had to say. Brandon Stephens goes, "What more can you ask for being a corner? That's one of the reasons I came here, to learn from guys like AG, guys that have been in my shoes and succeeded in this league, have something to give to the game. It's been great. They've been coaching their tails off since I first got here, and I definitely think it's going to pay off in the long run." We have talked a ton about Aaron Glenn and the coaching staff implementing a lot of like teaching, and they talk about that when they're at the podium, different actual like strategies that they are using, different techniques that they are using. The idea of the teaching emphasis is clear, and I was really excited to see Aaron Glenn also talking about Brandon Stephens kind of progressing, developing, and looking good so far at camp. I mean, you see highlights of like Garrett Wilson making tremendous grabs over Brandon Stephens. Listen, Garrett Wilson is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, but Brandon Stephens has been tight coverage, and that's what Aaron Glenn had to say. He goes, I thought he had a really good day in camp today, from one day last week. There are things that we have to work on when it comes to him playing the ball, and he understands that, but the competitive part of him was evident today, and that's what we want from all of our corners. He really stood out as far as coverage today. I'm excited about that player. I tell you guys all the time, the idea that that press man coverage combined with maybe blitzing linebackers or dual edge rushers of Will McDonald and now Jermaine Johnson, who has been cleared, I think that's going to be very important, and there's plenty of stats to show that the Lions pass defense with Aaron Glenn's scheme was really successful last year. I mean, second lowest completion percentage, lowest red zone completion percentage, red zone picks, end zone picks, right? Top 5 in interceptions, top 10 in pass breakups. That is testament to what we are hoping to bring, and the key again, being intentional about this. Sauce, perfect press man, tall, lanky guy. Brandon Stevens, also 6'3". A.Z. Thomas, press man coverage. Didn't give up a touchdown in Florida State last year in press man coverage. Also tall, lanky. This is what they are going for, and I think it is really important. It is a fit for what they are doing. Everything is in alignment, and Brandon Stevens enjoys being here, enjoys learning, and learning under a guy like Aaron Glenn. The other piece I talked about the O-line and its, kind of impact on the run game, which was 31st in the NFL last year, right? I talk about the secondary, bringing over Aaron Glenn's kind of scheme and strategy from Detroit, where they were tops in a lot of areas. One other part that we are going to see consistently as an emphasis in camp is the idea of the penalties, the careless mistakes that kind of were reigning supreme last year and previous years with the Jets under Robert Saleh. The last 2 years in a row, the Jets were the heaviest penalized team in the NFL. We talked about the officials being at camp and how Aaron Glenn is strong, making no bones about it. They want to nip it in the bud, that's something to take care of because undisciplined teams don't win in this league. That is his quote. And to be honest, I think that could be a problem for Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens is a guy that we drafted in 2022, a kind of like raw, physical talent, but has had problems. And I think another way Aaron Glenn is kind of making this point is talking about it explicitly. Listen to what happened, Aaron Glenn talking about Michael Clemens early on in camp. He goes, if there's any player I'd want to look like, it would be him. He's built like you want to have a football player built. But there are things he knows he needs to get better at. Some of the penalties he had last year, we've talked about that. He needs to improve on that. But he's a big, strong defensive end that can set the edge and does have some rush ability. He's a power player, so I expect him to go out there and play with power. And then you see his stats right across 3 seasons, 7.5 sacks, 97 tackles. But I think this is Aaron Glenn not only bringing the officials in, not only talking about it in general, but he'll throw shade at players if they're making careless mistakes. And Clemens does have that history of weird, unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, other, penalties that have allowed teams to extend drives against the Jets defense. And it's clear Aaron Glenn is not going to support that regardless of the raw talent. He loves raw talent and the idea that they can coach him up, teach them, right? But not if the mental mistakes are going to be there. And here's the thing. Like we know, Jermaine Johnson is starting on the PUP list. He's cleared, but he's starting on the PUP list. So Michael Clemens has a shot to show up, show out, but there's going to be officials on the field. You can't be making silly mistakes. Remember, we also drafted Tyler Barron out of Miami in the 5th round. So we'll see if, the idea that Johnson is not on the practice field early at camp provides an opportunity for Clemens or a guy like Tyler Barron, but he is, in essence, on notice about stuff he needs to clean up in his game. And I think that that is another way Aaron Glenn is making those points. So those are some of the things I've noticed so far early on in Jets training camp. Really, the O-line and the secondary can take big steps forward. The turnovers and penalties, if we clean that up, it could be a very big difference for the 2025 green and white. Thank you to everybody who's watching these videos, subscribing to the channel. I always say it, tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend, because people are now starting to get excited about the 2025 Jets, and I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you guys contributing to Jets Latest, and here's what some of you have to say. Scipio Frankness, number 1, says, be optimistic, with emojis of Jets taken off. I think there is a lot of optimism, and we've got to be patient. Remember, Jared Goff's first season in Detroit, they started 0-10, okay? But this could be a turnaround. But to do it the right way, it does take time. I am optimistic. I think they're going to win 8-9 games this year, okay? I think they're going to look a lot different on the field, something you could be proud of. So be optimistic, but also be patient. Bobby the Brain, 21-18. Interesting take here on the running backs. He goes, Breece Hall is the alpha. Allen is not that good. He got stuffed on every short yardage play. I actually disagree. He converted 9 of 9 third and ones, and that short yardage, we talked about the success rate, but hey, can we stop overrating Braylon Allen, please? Good job on the videos. Talking to me, but I'm so sick of this glazing on Allen and the underestimating of Breece. I'll give you that. I think people are underestimating Breece, but I do think Braylon Allen is going to have a very interesting role in this backfield, in the short yardage, the goal line, and some out of the passing game as well. Look at it as the David Montgomery role in that Detroit offense that we saw. Remember, Tana Engstrand coming over. And then James Baker, 6128, says, Dane, good content, brother, with fire emojis. So I appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's given positive feedback, okay? We want to grow this channel. We are close to hitting that 2,000 subscriber mark. I really appreciate that. So tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. I will be here every single day. There is stuff coming out of training camp. We'll be giving you what we see, the quotes, position battles, and all that stuff, right? And if you want to hear more from me, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, remember, I am the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM Channel 87. That is the fantasy channel where it's really also getting into fantasy football draft season. So I could certainly help you out with that. I actually have a big-time expert industry league that I'm drafting in this weekend with some of the names you probably know. So feel free to hit me up on Twitter or social media X at Spittin' Speeds. Hit me up also in the comments right here. But if you want to keep it locked on the Jets, this is the place to be. I am giving you the real, I'm giving you the stats, I'm giving you the quotes, I'm giving you real talk about the green and white that is optimistic yet patient about what we could be seeing here in a turnaround. So that'll do it for this episode. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow. Tell a friend to tell a friend. But for now, we out of here. Peace.